Hi everyone, I'm Lisa Dickinson, garden girl at Two Peas in a Bucket, and I'm here with this week's Scene Double video. Today I'm going to be working with package die cuts, and I will be showing you how I use them on a layout and a card. There are lots of these pre-cut shapes available in the two-piece store, and I've selected two of them to work with today. These are peekaboos from Glitz Design, the Color Me Happy line, and I've also grabbed this set from the American Crafts Mayberry line, and it has a variety of different shapes. And you'll see when I pull these out that the shapes are cut from both cardstock and vellum, and there's a really good variety to choose from. Lots of colors and shapes. You can see this one's on vellum, and this one is too. And then I'm also going to use these larger shapes from Glitz. They're cut from a really thin acrylic material that's thicker than vellum. It's more like a transparency. So they're a bit translucent and sheer, and they're really perfect for layering and creating a layered look on your page. I'm starting this layout with my standard white cardstock, and I've already printed out 3 photos that I'd like to incorporate. These are just some shots that my husband took of my daughter and me on Mother's Day this year. I've printed them all on 4x6 photo paper, but I've cropped the longer side a bit, so they're about 4x4 each. And I'm planning to line them up horizontally across the page, like so. Then I'm going to start pulling some of these shapes from my pile and work them into an arrangement above my photos. I usually try to grab the biggest shapes, like this heart, to start with, and then layer on top of those. Since in the photos we're wearing bright pink and blue, I'd like to add in some elements with those colors, as well as some yellows and greens as well. So I'm just going to keep pulling different shapes out and playing around with them, moving them around until I find an arrangement that I like where I have a good balance of color and shape. I love that these shapes are ready to go straight out of the package. Obviously, they're wonderful if you don't have a die cut machine, but even if you do, sometimes it's just easier to grab something that's pre-cut, and these are printed with great designs and patterns, so they're a really good way to speed up your scrapping process a little bit. I wanted to add some more of the pink and blue elements to my arrangement, so I've grabbed this paper pad from American Crafts, the Mayberry line, because it coordinates with the die cuts I'm already using. I cut out a few of these mini cards that are printed on one of the papers, and I'm just going to tuck them in amongst these other shapes to add a little bit more of a deeper pink and some of the brighter blue. To add even more color and a little bit of texture, I'm going to use this paper pad again, along with the Jenny Bullen pinwheel punch from Fiskars. It's a super easy way to create little pinwheels. You just punch out 2 of the shapes, and I think I'm going to use this pink paper. Then I'll just adhere the shapes back to back. That way, when you fold over the little pinwheel parts, you have pink on both sides. Otherwise, one side of your pinwheel would show white. So you adhere those, and then you're just going to fold half of each of these little wings down towards the center. And you can use a little button or a brad, or I used enamel dots just to hold the little wings into the center, and that creates your pinwheel shape. I'm happy with the general arrangement of these shapes, so I'm going to start adhering things into place now. I have found that with these transparent shapes, some adhesives won't stick to them because of their glossy finish, so I like to use vellum adhesive to stick them down. I try to put it where it won't show through, kind of where it's tucked behind another element. And then often I'll go back and add a little bit of machine stitching just to hold them in place. So now I've stuck everything down, and I'm looking at adding some elements below my photos just to keep the design from being too top heavy. There aren't really any of the pre-cut shapes that will fit in this space well. I think these shapes need to be kind of long and skinny. So the first thing I'm going to do is just add a strip of pattern paper. This pink is from Elle's Studio, and it's the only paper I use that's not from the American Crafts 6x6 pad. Then I've cut out some shapes from the 2Ps Digital Shop on my silhouette. I've got these arrow border cut files, and I've cut one in a blue and the other one in a green. And then I've also cut out this little love label, and it's from the Milestone Labels set. And that's a cut file that's only available through the end of June, so you might want to grab those before the end of the month. But I'm purposely using these directional arrow cuts here to point over to the area where I'm going to add my journaling. There's a lot going on this layout in terms of colors and shapes, so I think that'll help keep it from getting lost amongst everything. For my page title, I'm using another die cut from 2Ps, and it's this scripty phrase that says "Dream Come True." It's part of the Wish and Dream set, which is another June exclusive. And originally I cut it in this light blue paper from the American Crafts pad, but I didn't think it had enough contrast against the photos. So I went back and enlarged it a bit and then recut it from plain white cardstock. And I think this one looks a lot better. It's a lot cleaner and brighter. I'm just about ready to add my journaling and adhere everything, but I wanted to add a few finishing embellishments first. I had made these 2 pinwheels earlier that I will add in, and I also grabbed a few rolls of striped washi tape. These are from Bella Boulevard, and they coordinate well with my color palette. And then for a touch of shine, I'm going to work in some metal brads and a few of these arrow paper clips from Freckled Fawn. I was inspired to incorporate these striped tapes because this tabbed shape up here is pre-printed with what looks like washi. So I'm adding a little piece of this pink stripe over here on the left side. And then I think I will add a longer strip down here on the bottom edge of the pink pattern paper. And since I don't have any yellow down below the photos, I think this would be a good place to stick some of that color down. I'm just going to add a tiny bit of this hot pink chevron tape. Since it's wider, I don't want to put too much of it down. And then I think maybe one more little piece of this blue stripe, maybe to connect the blue and green up here. And I think that will finish up my washi application. Now I'll add my pinwheels that I created with the punch, and I secured them in the middle with some enamel dots. And I'm also going to put down these little metal brads, maybe one is the center of the flower and this blue one tied into the blue card. And these little arrow clips work really well on the edges of your paper, so I'm going to arrange them pointing into my design. So one will be on the top left, and then I'll put this other aqua one down here on the bottom right. So you can see all the embellishments are added and secured to my page. I also added some white stitching across the heart, and I added a little bit of zigzag over here on the tape and down here across the bottom. Not only does it add a little bit of texture, but it also helps secure all the elements to my cardstock. I'm going to stick down my title, and these Tombow mono dots are really great for titles like these because they only stick to the paper and they don't hang over. So I'll center that and stick it down. And then finally, I just need to add in my journaling. I've printed it out on a sheet of white cardstock, and I'm going to put it in this area, the page. I just need to cut it into strips with my ruler and craft knife. And then I can cut the strips apart and make them fit into that space that I have left on my layout. I've cut apart my journaling strips and I'm working on positioning them on the page. So all that's left is to adhere them down, and then I'll give you a look at the finished layout. For my second seam double project, I'm creating a super simple card using the Glitz Peekaboo shapes. I've cut a card base that's 5 1/4 by 5 1/4, and you could make just about any of these shapes work just by trimming the card base down to match it. Like this little chevron hexagon, you could trim the white away and make a hexagon shaped card. But I think I want to keep it really easy, so I want to use one of these squares. This one is perfect, it's colorful, but I really like the sentiment on this sunshine one. You will always be my sunshine. So I think I'm going to use it. And I want to stitch it to my card base, but just to keep it in place while I run it through the sewing machine, I'm going to use a little bit of vellum adhesive. I like to put it on the dark parts just so it won't show through as much, and not use very much, just enough to secure it so it doesn't slip when I'm stitching it. So my shape is stitched on, and to add a little bit of embellishment, I am going to pull out my enamel dots and just apply them to dot the eyes in this sentiment. I think that the bright colors and the glossy finish of this die cut really make the card stand on its own without adding a bunch of little embellishments. To finish this card off, I'm going to add a ribbon through the top edge. But first I want to punch 2 holes that are about 1 1/4 inches in from each edge. So I'm just going to mark with my pencil about where I should punch the holes. Just right there and right there. And then I'll just use a handheld hole punch to make some little notches there on the top edge of my card. And then when I open it up, you can see I've got 2 holes to thread my ribbon through. I'm using this really old ribbon from my stash. I think it's from Cosmo Cricket from forever ago, but the striped colors are perfect for the card. So I'm just going to straighten that out so it will lie flat, and then I will tie a bow. Get a little more on this side here. So all I need to do now is trim off the ends of the ribbon, and this super fast and simple card will be done. Thanks so much for joining me for this video using package die cuts. Don't forget to tune in next Friday for another Seam Double segment. And for more daily videos and scrapbook supplies, be sure to check out 2peasinabucket.com.